Guys, so I'm back with another video, um, and I would like to let me see if I can make this any large. Okay, no, yeah, I would like to elaborate on a video I recently saw. So, as most of you know, I listen to Sadhguru and Jordan Peterson. Little bit of Sri Ravi Shankar, like not as much to him, but the first time I got to hear of Nasadiya Suktam and how it defines God, that was via Sri Ravi Shankar. But the thing is, Sri Ravi Shankar doesn't delve into too much details as such. Like, he likes to talk of religion in a more light-hearted manner, which I think it is not. But recently I got to know of this guy Rajarshi Nandi, and this video is something that I found very interesting.
In the whole solar system, Surya has the capacity to combust any graha. Combust means its fiery nature is so powerful. I mean, anybody with even basic knowledge of Jyotisha will know this. Which is another way to say that Surya can overpower any graha, except one, and that is Rahu. Rahu is that entity, a graha. When it is powerful, it is so powerful that it can consume Surya and Chandra for dinner and lunch. And that is exactly how things played out. So suddenly this entity, which was a very small thing and people wrote it off, there were all sorts of nothing is going to happen, this is this, that, etc. They've come very small, minor. Government's attitude was also very, dismissive. A certain degree of arrogance. We don't speak to everybody. And then comes in Mars. Mars is violence. So there is a certain projection of Mars that, okay, we will contain this, we will stop this, we will use some force. Whatever happens one way or the other, eventually this is going to disperse. Nothing is going to be left. The reaction is just opposite. Reaction is that it suddenly, what was here, it blows up into here. And there are different cities where the protests are happening, different types of people, whatever the agenda, but just collecting people together, which is this kind of an exponential growth for anything is only and only governed by Rahu, a very powerful Rahu, a Rahu that has the capacity to eat away the sun, that type of Rahu.
So, what I'm trying to say is, so my take on Hindu philosophy, I don't know whether this is Advait Vedant or Dvait Vedant or whatever, but it is that Hinduism mostly talks about the existence from an etheric perspective. So, not from a physical perspective, but an etheric perspective. So, when it talks of sattva, so it's like sattva is the quality of existence that says that the world is hierarchical, like it's a conglomerate of hierarchies. So that is more from the etheric perspective, and that is when it, if you look at the Purush Suktam, which talks of the caste system, which divides people, it's not in the physical world, it's in the etheric world. So there are classes of people. Does this reflect in the physical world? Yes, it reflects that in the physical world there is discrimination. Okay, and Rajarshi Nandi he himself once says that the tech world is very much governed by Rahu because of the speed at which it moves. So this is something that I wish to talk about, because something happened to me in 2021, 2022 when I was in the US, and I think it was in the open. So I somehow made it to the US by getting a degree in India, then US, and then making it to a decent tech job in the US. But people did not accept it. Like, neither in my family, nor in my university, nor at the workplace. There were quite a few people who accepted me, but a lot of them didn't. And so then what happened was like racism. Okay. So, I mean, it's not as severe as it sounds. It is more like a sort of discrimination saying that we don't welcome you here. So, what I wanted to say was, I think all of these things, the sattva, these grahas, and all of these are in the etheric plane. And the class of people who enforce this quality, I think those are what are called Vaishnavas. So Vaishnavas are the people who try to exert influence or control on the population. So I think racism or any sort of discrimination. So even if you look at the caste system in India, which I think is different from the caste system that the religion talks about, it's a list of surnames and a subcategory of them and how marriages are. So it's more discriminatory. It's not like, okay, I'm classifying people into these types. So the etheric classification is different, this is different, but the world is discriminatory, and the world is discriminatory so that some set of people can exert control on the others. So this is what I found out. So I am an Indian myself, right? And to my shock, a lot of the people who were behind the racism against me, they were Indians. And it's like, I just don't even know what to say. Maybe it's because I'm from a state called UP, and there were Gujaratis and Marathis and South Indians and Jats and Punjabis and Bengalis who did not like my success. And so maybe that was the reason why it happened, but it's not that that is the only way it goes. So what I'm trying to say is, when you look at what is happening in the tech world, a lot of people are raising voice from the US, some people are raising voice about white replacement in Europe, and other people are saying that getting into tech should be as difficult as possible, like you should be extremely smart to do it. So it's like a bunch of things. So as we all know, India has taken over tech world, and some people might say, okay, let us side with the, if they are being racist towards me, and like I'm like, I don't know why the racism gets directed towards me, but again, then they will be like, okay, let's look at people from other nationalities. But my point is that, from what I understand about psychology, the people who try to exert control, they might be discriminatory people like racists, but they could also be narcissists or psychopaths or whatever. So some things that did happen was, so in Boston I used to go to the dance community, and even in Netherlands. But in Netherlands something shocking happened. Like someone from my workplace commented that everyone in the salsa social is committed. Why are you even trying? While he thought that he could make a move. Okay, let's leave it at that. But from what I understood is that it's like a nexus that forms, right? So there are racists on one end. So there is a stereotype that Indians are racists. Okay. So there are racists on this end, but then if you look at the studies, Europe has a lot of psychopaths. So if they choose whites, they are going to try and select for psychopaths, because psychopaths are also going to help them exert control. Sometimes, like when you go to the gyms or whatever, sometimes when they try to physically intimidate you, like when I was in USA gym Boston, like US tries to keep violence to a minimum. Like I trained in martial arts in the US, one person tried to knee the other guy, like break his nose. That happened in the gym, and that guy was publicly liver shotted. Okay, so you cannot get away with stupidities or violence in the US, so that is good. But sometimes they do try to imitate you, and yes, they do try to bring in the blacks. So it's not like they are choosing any blacks. They are because they have a higher rate of narcissism, so they are going to try and bring the narcissist from there. That is why you see this illusion of choice, right? Okay, there are people from all the races, but at the end of the day, it's a nexus, right? They are trying to brainwash you into thinking that these are the elites. So I think that is what Vaishnavas are. And as for Rahu, see, the thing is, COVID happened, and then AI got released, and along with AI there were layoffs. So it's like they are trying to build this narrative, right, that the world is hyper competitive, the world is uncertain, and still some people are able to fight through it. Maybe there is something wrong with you because of which they are not able to do it. And even when it comes to AI, it's like the movement is more like, if you are capable enough, then you should be given the right to use AI, otherwise you should not be. And the justification is that a lot of these people who are clever, they were able to contribute before AI came. And so the only way this makes sense to me, the only way Rahu makes sense to me, is that, see, before AI came, what was the most difficult thing to build? I would say like compilers and abstract syntax trees. And AI has been present for long. I wouldn't say that the sort of AI that we have today, which is like, I take in a description in English and images and I get the code for it. But let's say I build a code base and I want 10 different versions of it, right? Or I want to expand the code base somehow. That sort of an AI could be written because people wrote compilers, right? Compilers are more difficult. So I don't trust everything that goes on in tech, and I think that is part of the plan. And what Vaishnavas pull off, and I think Vaishnavas, Sattva, and Rahu are connected in that. Let's consider it from a different perspective. Let's consider like Jordan Peterson talking about Christianity. He says that even in the Garden of Eden, a snake is present and it cannot be avoided. So that snake is more like Rahu and Ketu, the two grahas. And in my perspective, Rahu and Ketu are what form the walls of Sattva. So Sattva is discriminatory. It wants to build walls. Okay? And Rahu and Ketu are the walls. So right now it is tech. Tech is trying to create a kind of dominance. Tech or MBA, like the jobs that you get post MBA or HFTs or whatever, they are trying to create this aura of a genius, and they are trying to create an illusion of choice just to exert influence on the rest. And that is what Vaishnavas do. Okay. What Shaivas are about is something different. I think let's not get into that, because I think, okay, let's get in a little bit into it, because I think Shaivas are more about nakshatra. So it's like every person has a different sort of a talent which blossoms differently. So it's the same. Okay, I think it's also the concept in psychology. So it's like if you let people choose what they want to do, and if you don't have this discriminatory nature of the world, then the world becomes beautiful, but it also becomes very impromptu. So stories appear out of nowhere. And so that world is more impromptu, but also a little bit violent, because it's like you cannot predict what happens next, right? You have to be a part of the story. So it's more chaotic. And that is what the Shaivism aspect of the world is about. But maybe there is a reason that, the world doesn't go that way. It's just that, as Rajarshi Nandi says in this video, I think the Rahu is just too strong. So when he talks about the exponential growth, it's like this, okay? You cannot quantify this. Like, just the same way as in engineering, there is something called control theory to take care of uncertainties. It's the same thing with Rahu. It's like, okay, some people want to exert influence. So they try to keep the control center to a minimum, and then they look at anomalies. Let's say there is a person in this company who is not behaving as expected, or it's bugging them because he's getting things in life which they think he shouldn't. So they are going to try and expand the influence, right? So they are trying to go and build contacts, and they are going to try and brainwash him or corner him to silence him. I mean, it's a little bit of a torture, but that is what Vaishnavas do. The problem is, how do you break out of it? So that is why Rahu is like the most, I think, one of the most powerful grahas. So Surya is more about ambition. So someone has ambition and he wants to move forward, but Rahu would not let him move forward. And this is where sometimes when you say Kundali or devotion to Lord Hanuman comes in, that luck factor, because of which somehow you are able to escape. But even then, at some point, you are going to get caught, right, by Rahu. So the only thing that takes down Rahu is what we call the Sudarshan Chakra. And I think Sudarshan Chakra is also more of a societal weapon, because Rahu is more societal. So it's like if you follow the traditions and you are able to manage the 9 grahas within you. Let's say Surya is about ambition, let's say Venus is about beauty, let's say Mars is about aggression and strength and social dominance, Shani is about money and job, Jupiter is about education. If you are somehow able to balance it and you are able to prevent yourself from burning out, then that begins to create that influence called Sudarshan Chakra, which can cut down Rahu. But yes, I mean, even if that is the case, you still need to fight it out, right? I mean, Rajarshi Nandi, I think he mentioned it, and that was something which I understood. So Darshan Chakra is more about getting getting some sort of control over the Surya and Mangal within you, Surya and Mars. So you need to have ambition, you need to be able to move forward in life, but you also need to be able to be aggressive. So, one thing that happened to me is that, let's say I was in the US, I roamed around a bit, so people were able to understand that there was something going on. And then I had a female friend, and I mean, we used to just hang out together, nothing much, but a guy was after him. So sometimes what would happen is she would be leaving or something would be happening, and some other girl would come up, and it would be like sometimes in revealing clothes or sometimes tall. I mean, it's like trying to neg but indirectly, right? I mean, I didn't notice it, but she noticed it. So it's like when you roam around, when you meet people, these things begin to get highlighted, right? So because of the tactics they used, I developed a degree of mania. But it's like, since people observed it with others, it is going to become clear, right? And like people call doctors and nurses, and I think US is a wonderful state. So somehow, as I came back to India, because I had to leave, I think I was eventually able to get a job relatively easily, which was at that time a bit suspicious to me. But I was able to get a job. I mean, that is as much as they can help. But then somehow I was convinced to go to Europe, and it's like my dad is also like more on the Vaishnava side, but right, I mean, he's a general manager, he also tries to exert influence, but he was of the opinion that you shouldn't go to Europe because his opinion is that Europe is not safe. And I mean, I think I faced a lot more. I mean, I wouldn't call it, I mean, I don't consider that racism, but yes. I mean, sometimes some Indians and some Middle Easterners, some Latin Americans, they are more into that white replacement, right? So they call themselves whites. So it's like they were the ones being racist to me. And it's like, dude, it was so bad. But I think their plan was like, I used to go boxing. I think they wanted to arrange a below the belt attack, that kind of a thing. But not everything turns out as expected, right? So, what actually happened were boxing bouts. I mean, I had anticipated it, so even though my lifts are not that strong, I tried to train with maces, kettlebells, snatches, cleans, front squats, and whatnot, just so that I wouldn't get injured. And like, yeah, I was able to escape. But like, wow, I mean, I think the police followed me for a few days after that. I don't know what happened over there. Uh, Maybe someone broke something, maybe someone complained, and like somehow I was able to get by after that. And towards the end, like, I don't know, I really don't know what happened because I was in a zone of my own, but like people in my batch began to behave badly, and I called the police, and I'm like, dude, like these people are not behave, these people are looking like mentally sick people to me. And she was like, maybe you should go back home and take some therapy. I mean, I kind of get it. So I don't know. See, the thing is, when you're combating Rahu, it's like I was in Europe. I'm not sure I'm on the side of people who are like, okay, we need to oppose white replacement. But if white replacement theory and their proponents are there, there is also going to be other groups, right? So maybe I resonated with some of them because someone just said to me that you are Dutch. I mean, and she was a white, like ethnically white female. Okay, women in the 40s or 50s, I don't know what. And I'm like, what, dude? I have been here for 6 months. I don't, I mean, and it's like, I'm going to say I'm Indian because I'm ethnically Indian, but like, even culturally, like, I have been here for 6 months to 12 months, but whatever. So, yeah, I mean, after I came back to India, I tried to like get used to DSA, tried to give a few interviews and all, and somehow I got a call from this company. And I mean, somehow I made it through, but then again, it's like initially it was fine, but like slowly and slowly the expectations began to rise, and I'm like, dude, this is the same thing over again, but this is stronger this time. And like, I think again this is racism, but then you begin to figure things out, right? You have to deal with it. So then the concept of psychology began to click. Like, don't think of Rahu as a graha. Think of it this way, that there are people who want to exert control, but there would be racists there. There might be caste, not the ethnic thing, but the discriminated castists there, or there might be psychopaths there, or there might be narcissists there. And it's like, even though India has been racist, like the professors who helped me get a degree in India or in the US, they were both Indians. So it's like, what I have understood is that you should focus on the disagreeable people, because they are of the opinion that prove yourself to me and I will help you out. So at this company, I think till now I have proven that I can work with like 1,000 line functions and I can do it manually. I can work with 10, 20,000 lines of code, but with AI. And I was able to get it to a bug free state. So I've proven that. But like, the voice in my head says that some disagreeable people are like, can you prove to me that you can slowly and steadily build something without AI? Like, you can use some help, but I want to see you code manually. I want to see you struggle. Like, sometimes some algorithms have been developed by PhDs. Can you use those APIs? So I think that is what I'm going for. And it's like, at the same time, I also have to take care of my physicality, right? So it's like intertwined. And that is the journey. It's like, so job is like about Surya, your physicality is like about Mangal or Mars, and you have to have both of them on your side to some extent to be able to counter Rahu. So I don't think what took down the government was Rahu. I think it was more of Sudarshan, because it's like you are getting Rahu to eat what is on its own side. I mean, again, I could be wrong, but that is something that I have understood. And it's like, I mean, my mental health isn't always the best, but still I try to do the best that I can. I'm not saying, like, some people are advising me to try and go to Europe again. I'm not saying I won't go, but I want to be prepared. Like, I want to be mentally healthy and I want to be physically healthy, because even though I don't get along well with my dad, I think he's right, right? If I have to go to Europe again, I probably will have to fight again. I probably will have to face racism from these people, like these wannabe whites, these people who are trying to replace whites. Because I mean, the problem with whites isn't ethnic whites isn't racism, it's that they have psychopaths. And I don't want to deal with psychopaths, okay? I mean, that's the thing with tech, right? It's like you deal with racists, and if you get to the whites or something, it's like there is a high chance they are psychopaths. And if someone is trying to intimidate you in the social setting and it's a black guy, it's probably a narcissist. So, that is the way these things work. And it's like, it's something that I just wanted to talk, and it's like I can show you. I think I found one of Rajarshi Nandi's video on this. So yeah, Rajarshi Nandi Rahu. So um yeah, I just a minute. Like, what? There was something. I mean, he has a bunch of videos on Rahu, so I mean, maybe you can go ahead and look at them. But yeah, that's mostly what I wanted to say. Yeah, thanks.